Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business News Afternoon Report for Thursday, the 27th of June, 2024. I'm Sean Aylmer. Every afternoon, we've got the 5 stories that happened today that you need to know about. Story number 1, the S&P ASX 200 tumbled more than 1% in early trading this morning, only to clamber its way back, closing the session just 0.3% lower at 7,760 points. Interest rate-sensitive stocks fell most, with the Real Estate Investment Trust Index down more than 2%. Today's trading was all about interest rates, with bond markets now pricing in a 40% chance of a rate hike in August. Tech stocks did best today among the large caps. There wasn't a huge amount of movement, while Transurban closed down nearly 3% and WiseTech finished up 2.5%. Most of the other top 20 stocks ended not too far from where they started the day. Story number 2, Julian Assange is back in the country, and perhaps not surprisingly, his arrival triggered a political stoush in Canberra. Mr. Assange's first phone call when he touched down last night was to Anthony Albanese. He told the Prime Minister he had saved his life. Mr. Assange's return followed a deal whereby he pled guilty to a single criminal count of conspiring to obtain and disclose classified US national defence documents. Both sides of politics have worked to get him back to Australia. He had been in a British prison for 5 years. Prior to that, he was in the Ecuadorian embassy in London for 7 years. But today, Opposition Foreign Affairs spokesperson Simon Birmingham broke the bipartisanship. He said it was inappropriate the Prime Minister spoke to Mr. Assange, saying while it's a good thing the legal saga is over, he shouldn't receive the same homecoming as others who have been, and I quote this, truthfully, truly, wrongfully detained. Story number 3, the number of job vacancies in Australia has fallen to 353,000 across the country, suggesting the heat is definitely coming out of the labour market. The Bureau of Statistics figures show that job vacancies peaked 2 years ago and have been falling ever since, though they remain above their pre-pandemic level. This is particularly the case in public-facing industries such as accommodation and food services and arts and recreation. In fact, there are still around 125,000 more vacancies than there were in February 2020, pre-pandemic. Vacancies are a leading indicator of what's going to happen to the labour market and the unemployment rate. Thus far this economic cycle, the labour market has, in Reserve Bank Governor Michelle Bullock's words, remained tight. It needs to loosen a bit, basically, and fewer job vacancies suggest that's what is happening. Over the quarter to the end of May, vacancies fell sharply in wholesale trade and manufacturing. Story number 4, miner Lynas will start production of 2 heavy rare earths metals, dysprosium and terbium, processing them from its Malaysian plant, breaking China's stranglehold on the metals used in modern weapon systems. The US and Australian governments are taking a harder line on who owns and produces minerals used in the electrification of economies, wanting to reduce reliance on China, and Lynas has been a beneficiary. The heavy rare earths will be sourced from the company's Mount Weld mine in Western Australia. Along with Lynas's light rare earths, it's now the biggest non-Chinese supplier of rare earth minerals. Rare earths aren't particularly rare, but they are difficult to process, and Lynas's Malaysian facility is a critical part of that process. Managing Director Amanda Larkes said Lynas was poised to break the Chinese monopoly on heavy rare earths and lessen the threat posed if Beijing opted to cut off supply to the US and its allies. And story number 5, finishing off with corporate news today, TV and radio broadcaster Southern Cross Media has rejected an offer whereby it would take over Australian community media. Japan's Mitsubishi Motors has taken a 5% stake in ASX-listed business Fleet Partners, and an update on Guzman y Gomez, the fast food group that floated on the ASX last week. The issue price was $22. On day one, it closed at $30. That was the peak, though. It has stayed mostly above $29 a share. What's emerged is that there are a number of short sellers in Guzman, investors betting that the group's share price will fall. We have to wait and see on that one. That's it for the afternoon report for Thursday, the 27th of June, 2024. Don't forget to hit follow on the podcast and find Fear and Greed on LinkedIn, Instagram, X, TikTok and Facebook. Join Michael Thompson and I tomorrow morning for the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed. The top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your evening.